Hello guys, how are you? Happy Wednesday to everyone. Welcome to Digital Beer Stream. Just to explain you what's the situation. So Instagram is acting funny in the other profile that I've got. Basically, I tried hard to manage to put some content in there and doesn't let me do the lives, doesn't let me do the shows like this. And especially if I'm doing it after, it doesn't let me save it. So I prefer to want to just go to my personal page, so it's much better. And hi guys, hi Sylvan, hi Warwick, and hi all my friends in here, which is great. I can see as well. Oh, hello chef. And welcome everyone. So Digital Beer Stream is born as a way to fight the boredom of the lockdown. And I normally happen in the other page. Today is this in page. You can find all the videos from the previous episodes on the Digital Beer Stream section, the IGTV section in Instagram, and you can also find in YouTube. I'm gonna share the page in YouTube as soon as I can, and I'll explain you a bit much what's happening for the Digital Beer Stream. We got 4 different formats every day, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Wednesday today, we're having the ground stream. And the ground stream is a 2-way live conversation with the London's best beer stockists. In these days, mostly bottle shops. And every day or every week, I'm trying to give a big shout to someone that really does great things for industry or the community or whatever you want to say. So big shout to the Corona Short Film Festival. I'll tell you what Corona Short Film Festival is. So it's the first international pandemic short film festival. First and hopefully the last. And they just put collecting videos that make aware people of the devastating impact of the pandemic from a psychological point of view, from just a social economical point of view. So if you really want to see some short films, please, Corona Short Film Festival, really deserve it. And this week we are dealing mostly with weird stuff. What weird stuff is, what weird beer is. In my opinion, weird beer is all the beers that are like not really staying in a simple category, but are mixing up with different type of categories. So one of the beers could be definitely this beer here. So if you're not familiar with Burn Mill, is a pretty awesome brewery, and what they're doing is basically creating mostly very nice, well-made contemporary hoppy beers. So when I was checking on the Ghost Whale website, I was just like, yeah, a bike firm as hell. Sounds like interesting. Don't know if I pronounced it well, sorry. And I'm expecting lots of interesting fruit, but in the same time some umami. So I'm gonna open it. It's an extra light grist encompassing ingredients across the globe like chica, sake, umbokti, and British barley, and hops like lemon verbena, and interesting one. What would I like to say to you? We're working this week with Ghost Whale, and Ghost Whale is a bottle shop in Brixton and recently opened in Putney. It's an independent craft beer bottle shop and taproom, and they opened up in 2016, and the Putney location in the August 2019, and it's run by Stuart and Alex, which are going to be with me shortly. And what would I like to say? It's been a great experience to share a beer with all the people that we're watching in the other channel. So until the other Instagram channel it's acting weird, I'm gonna do it on this bit in here. So I'm gonna try now to get the guys from Ghost Whale live with me, so we can start discussing about weird beers, discussing about hot stuff, London, and all the interesting stuff. So let's see who's gonna be with me. Oh, hello guys.
Hey, how we doing?
This is lovely. This is the first interview with 2 people at the same time.
Yeah, we don't think we're breaking any rules because we've literally been working together for the last 8 weeks now. It's just like we literally see nobody and then come to work and see each other. So it's like, we probably spend more time in the shop than we do in our own homes. Yeah, and we're also on opposite sides of the bench, so I think it's okay.
Fantastic.
I hope it's okay.
It's brilliant. You got the most beautiful sky from London ever, the epic one, really. So it's fantastic. Oh, look at that. Yeah, man.
No, I know. It's all right.
Islington is a bit cloudy somehow. I think it's South London definitely got the best of the day today.
It's always brighter down here.
Yeah,
That,
our little Brixton shop. We've got a little beer garden,
I
so
didn't know.
it's sort of yeah. It just acts as like a total sun trap as well. It's great. So
Oh,
So
wow.
by the
So
end
you,
of this, I'll be as the same colour as the wall behind me, no doubt.
well, yeah. Well, I didn't know you actually had that beat. So shall we say then, and when the weather will get better, hopefully in time to enjoy the sun, we're gonna see or as many as we can in the back over there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we literally can't wait for that day. Like, even if it's just sort of 4 people or 6 people in this garden, just to have people being able to do that again is just going to be like the best thing.
Someone thinks that potentially the day then pubs and let's say businesses in general are going to be open. In London, there will be some kind of a national stop, like the entire country had to just stop for a day to make sure we're all going to get back to our, I don't want to say drinking habits, just meeting friends in the right places, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there'll also have to be like a day where we have to sort of tell everybody how to do it rather than just everybody go crazy as well.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you're drinking, but I can't wait to give the first sip on this. And cheers. What are you having, guys?
Awesome.
Cheers.
I've got Baby Shower, which is by Mars Community Brewing from Chicago, which we literally just got into the shop this week.
Interesting. What
It's
we're
just
having.
a session IPA, but it's super nice and hoppy and light.
And because you're doing weird beers, I thought I'd try something. It's not totally weird, but just something a little bit different. So I've got one of the last couple of cans of this Exhale lager, but it's a lager with Riesling white wine grapes. So it's got it's literally a nice sort of grapey overtone to it, and it's proper refreshing for weather like this.
Very, very.
It's so good that it makes all the cars beat their horns.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's real. It's real. It's the beauty of the direct. And what would I have to say to you? I saw Excel doing some interesting stuff like a coffee and Coretto kind of inspired beer, and which is interesting to know. Then not just in the Scandinavian countries, people doing mad beers. You can also find them in London or in the UK.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we love stocking weird and wonderful beers. It's very much part of our culture. But at the same time, I think there's very much a flip to that where it still should be, an enjoyable, potentially challenging, but an enjoyable drinking experience. I think there are times where I've had 1 or 2 beers by maybe some slightly less experienced breweries where I've gone, it feels like you're just throwing some things into a beer here. So I do think it's a careful line you have to kind of tread sometimes. It still has to work as a drink is the bottom line.
So let's say
that's just my take.
I 100% agree with you, and I like when breweries are doing crazy stuff, but contextualized in the same time. Like the Brick Brewery project with all the spices, and from then they were capable to find on Peckham. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was an
and they've done really well with those with that range of sours in particular, and the tamarind and lime leaf sour, and they did a stout as well, didn't they, with a bunch of sort of curried spices in it, and it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Brick have really dialed it in with the mostly with the sours, but yeah, the odd stout or two they've done have been great as well.
I often think that craft beer can learn quite a lot when it comes to weird and wonderful beers and putting weird and wonderful ingredients into beer. They can learn quite a lot from good restaurants and how good chefs approach sort of interesting flavor combinations or try to sort of look at new ways to put flavors together. And you can tell that with breweries, some of the Scandinavian breweries actually, such as Brews. Broaden and Build is a really good example. in Copenhagen, who, those guys, one of those guys is behind a sort of a Michelin-starred restaurant, for Christ's sake. So, and then they've really taken that sort of chef's approach and then applied it to beer rather than just like throwing some random shit in beer.
For sure.
And they also, interestingly, haven't gone straight down the big imperial adjunct stout route. In fact, I don't even know if they've done one.
Yeah, I think they've done one or two.
But most of the things that they've done have been saisons and grisettes and that sort of style, and added the adjuncts to those. So it's been a really interesting set of beers that we've managed to try from them over the last sort of 12, 18 months or so.
Wow. And I think I can probably speak for Stuart here as well, in that we're both big fans of like subtle sessionable beers that can still impart the flavor of something interesting or unusual. I'm not necessarily so huge on just beers that like need a high ABV in order to give you a sense that there's some big flavors going on. I think if you can get a lot of flavor into a beer that's like between 2.5% and 6%, I think that's almost more admirable in a way.
100%. Look, I had a beautiful chat last week with the guys from Fitzpatrick Hub Day, and it was brilliant to hear the dedication that they have on trying to, if not rescue from the past, but just like reinterpret some big and famous brew from the past about the London brewing, history, and remaking it contemporary. Which I was like, yeah, exactly. Like, where are you guys? I need more right there. Somehow,
yeah, like their smoked porter is like a proper like old school style, and it's absolutely great. It's quite understated as well. I think for them, that's it's not like a big seller for them, I'm sure, because it's a smoked beer, but it's a absolutely fantastic porter.
I agree. And
yeah, I mean, I think we to move forward, we always have to look at the past, and like the more you delve into the past, the more you can learn in a sort of cyclical manner and move forward with that.
100%. Yeah. Well, look, this is fantastic. Like, I have so much out from this glass. It is so velvety. It's so well balanced. Like, you have the farmhouse character, which is not that kind of very brutal in the face farmhouse. It just I really want to have some fish, some kind of seafood, probably spicy as well and very lemony as well. It's just brilliant. It's history. Yeah. And what a glass.
Yeah, nice. Thanks. We've done a bunch of events at Ghost Whale of sort of like pairing beer with food. And by that, I don't just mean, a bag of crisps. We've done some really good stuff with like Tim Anderson of Namban. We've done stuff with guys from Smoke and Salt in Brixton, in Brixton.
Smoke and Cure, cured meats. Specialist up in Crystal Palace, London Smoke and Cure. So we've done something with them as well. So a big range, but that's always been a really big part of it for us. It's not just coming and drinking beers or finding the most weird and wonderful beers you can. I mean, obviously that is part of it, but it's about how beer can, be more than just that. It can go with food, and you can pair all these, hugely different styles of beer and flavors of beer with amazing food, and to great success as well. It's as good, if not more varied than wine can be.
Yeah, I think beer is the most versatile alcoholic drink out there, personally. And before we opened Ghost Whale, like literally before we opened the first shop, it was always in our sort of like our DNA or in our identity to sort of always sort of have that food aspect sort of being something in the background. And that's been something we've always been keen to support and talk to local restaurants about, and just enjoy, because food and drink go together so why not?
It's in your name. You are saying to all your visitors and all the people that are coming in your place, independent beer culture. And culture is the full, spectrum of everything that you can connect with beer itself. That was fascinating. Like only few times, and not probably in London, I found the word culture associated to an entire movement and a product in the same time. So what beer culture means for you? I'm really curious.
I mean, well, definitely the food aspect, like we've talked about. But I mean, we've both got. I mean, I still have an active musical side to my career, and Stuart has, plays in bands still, and we've played in bands together. So there's definitely there's obviously the food, there's music, and then obviously I think both food, music, and beer, and just they're all sociable activities, if you want. I mean, you're calling food an activity is kind of crazy, but
Well, yeah,
but that kind of sort of social is, social sort of bringing people together, all to us sort of feeds into culture, and obviously art as well. I mean, I don't want to start getting a bit too pretentious or whatever, but obviously, to many of the breweries that we love and know, art is a big part of it as well. And I just think all of these things are sort of like interconnected, and
it's all intrinsically linked. Like the amount of people we met when we started this, and still meet actually on a regular basis, where within the beer world, where it transpires that they've come from a music background. They toured as a live musician, or they do live sound at gigs, or they're a recording engineer, or whatever it was. It almost seems like there's a natural progression from people that worked in music or independent music in one form or another, transition into beer. Seems like every other person we meet in the industry has some sort of connection in that way. So that kind of emphasizes how it's more than just beer. It's literally a part of our culture. It's a very
part of our life.
Yeah, it was a very conscious decision to use that as part of the kind of like strapline, I guess, for the business, because that's what it is for us.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days where it was literally just Stuart and me and one other person running the Brixton shop, it was just like, we were literally just scrambling around, like putting on all the records we fucking loved, and trying to organize food pairing events, and just trying to meet people, and meet as many people as possible, and just sort of try to make those connections. And hence, when we started, we were really, really keen on that culture strapline, like you said. I mean, we know that the bread and butter is us selling cans, bottles, and draft beer. Like, don't get us wrong, we're not sort of like, we don't think we're some sort of like, we don't have ideas above our station. We don't think we're something we're not. We know we're a shop and we're here to sell beer, and it's a business. But the more things we can do to make it fun for ourselves and for our customers, to foster a sense of a community, then the better. The better it is for everyone, because they feel part of something and they feel like they belong.
100%. I came 3 times, then I remember very well, for reasons in your Brixton shop. And one, I was with Teresa, which also a fantastic photographer and work with you as well. So hail to her. And I came with Moritz, which is probably one of the best bartender in this town. And I came for the Unbarred event with Matt from Foodism. And this I was so happy, because I felt straight away that I was at home. Like the attitude and of yourself guys and the people that were working there, and the way that the shop has been made, it's very navigable, and it's really human sized, and you feel yourself very comfortable in the place. And I can't wait to see the Putney as well, because I'm really curious. What's it like, the Putney shop? Please.
We have laid it out in a very similar way to Brixton. So we've still got a central unit where people can sit down and have a drink, and the fridges lining either side of the shop. It's bigger, and there's more floor space.
There's more comfortable seating. We think we've sort of like really. We've had a few people say that it's like Brixton on steroids or on crack. That communal table in the middle is sort of really conducive to people who don't know each other speaking to each other. And then the
Right.
comfy seating at the front sort of just adds that kind of layer of, again, just sort of relaxation that a nice beer or two can bring. So yeah, I
Interesting.
mean, we haven't got a garden there, but it is bigger and it is sort of potentially more comfortable and slightly more, dare I say it, slightly more interesting due to that sort of the space and the flexibility that affords us.
Interesting. And just I catch up with all the people that just started to, follow the live. So this is Digital Beer Stream. Today is the ground stream. I'm here with the beautiful guys from Ghost Whale, and we're chatting about South London, weird beer, and everything that is good about life and music as well. We just mentioned, and I can't wait to see the Putney shop. As I said, unfortunately, it's a bit away from my radar. I'm usually doing northeast, east-north,
Cool.
sometimes south, but I definitely have to travel a bit more on the west side. And you said you kind of, you have to keep update on all the new beers and everything that's happening in the industry. So how do you feel like within the beer industry and the beer, do you feel like within the beer community, or do you think bottle shops are kind of in between, really? How do you perceive this?
I feel very much like I think we're all sort of, I think we're all part of the wider industry. I don't think there's any clear differentiation in terms of a sort of community aspect to it, I suppose. But, we, as bottle shops, we very much serve a purpose. And with breweries, especially now, starting to, offer direct-to-consumer sales and stuff,
Yeah.
It's changed a little bit from 3 years ago when we opened, where if you wanted beer, you had to go to a shop like ourselves or buy from an online shop rather than directly from the brewery. So, the industry is evolving, but there's a very clear place for bottle shops and independent bars and so on, because, well, frankly, it's about choice and it's about community and for people to come somewhere where they feel comfortable and they can ask questions and they can learn and find out more, or just come and, if they know tons and tons, browse and pick what they want and just sit and have a nice drink
And have a chat.
Yeah, and just have a chat, which you can't do when you buy online. If you do buy direct from a brewery, that's fantastic, but the brewery's not going to have more than 8-10 beers available at one time if you're lucky. So, and you don't get that kind of social interaction either. So there's definitely very much a place for businesses like ourselves, and there's plenty of us. And there's a really good community between all of the sort of bottle shops and independent bars and so on as well, where we all talk to each other and, people share learning and, give people a heads up on things that are happening within the industry that might be interesting for other people or might affect other people. So there's a great community amongst the bottle shops ourselves, as well as our relationships with breweries as well.
Yeah, I mean, we just think it's like, you just got to get along with people and be nice and, try and work together. Because at the end of the day, if you work together, it makes things better for everybody. And if you fight against each other or enter into price wars, or if you badmouth breweries or vice versa, or get a bad rep, then the only thing that can harm is yourself and the industry. Whereas the flip side is, just give out what you want to get back, just be nice, be good.
Yep.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. It's just beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
this every now and again when there's various things that happen
or something gets stressful.
Yeah, or something gets stressful. You just got to sort of sit back and go, you know what? It's just beer. At the end of the day, it's good, and we love it, and it's a huge passion. But it's just beer.
And there'll be another one.
Yeah, there'll be another beer. If you miss out on one, like, we get stuff in and think, God, we really want to try that, and then it's sold out before we've remembered to, buy one for ourselves. It's like, well, my life will go on. It'll be fine.
You remember that it's not youthful elixir. It's not unicorn tears. It's all okay. It's like, it's just enjoyable, and it's just something that's there for fun that we happen to like work on and work in.
100%. I feel like the same. You know, I worked for a while Clapton Crafts, pretty much most of them around, and it was a beautiful time because I remember I almost, you know, start with the help of Martin, which is probably watching right now as well. We started to have relationships with the customers where they were trying to ask what they should drink, but also what they should listen when they are home, what kind of food they should cook with the wife, where they were putting that specific, you know, product. So we were selling them a very big package of the beer and the rest of the experience, and they were coming back and tell me how it went. And that was brilliant, you know, that was fantastic. I always really enjoy that. And
yeah, customer relations are like one of the perks of the job beyond the cheap and free beer. Yeah, customer relations are like, you know, we've both made friends through this, you know, like loads of friends, and it's generally a very nice, friendly, open, intelligent community. You know, pretty streetwise, and you know, and even those who sort of maybe like cross into our little world and don't really understand, you know, it's really nice when you can get someone interested, enthusiastic in what we do, and make them feel this, even a tinge of the same passion as we have, and to see them come back, you know, and to see them sort of tell their friends and come back with like a group of their friends, and you know, it's, and just to see people's eyes be opened that there is more out there than, I mean, you know, 5 years ago I would have said there's more out there than Stella, but now it's like, even to say, you know, there's more out there than, you know, seeing Gamma Ray and Neck Oil on the shelves of Tesco, you know, thinking that that's craft beer. It's like, okay, that's okay, but you know, there's still so many more layers that you can sort of like peel like an onion, which is fun.
Every bottle shop that I browse from the you know, online shop had different products made, you know, I can say like described in a different way, and some people add the products in a category, and some other bottle shop does in another one. And some people like to keep the products that are not on stock anymore. Someone else doesn't. So it's interesting for me to see all of that, because somehow that it's like your front shop, but in a digital world. So you know what to expect in the way that also like all the graphics and everything is made. So the question is, why Ghost Whale?
It came about by going down a bit of a wormhole on Wikipedia, basically, and ending up on a very niche blog article that was talking about a group of people who, I think they were from Belgium or something, but a group of people anyway who would do bottle shares, where each person would bring a large 750ml bottle, and they'd get together and they'd all crack the bottles open and, you know, have a small amount of each beer each and share and enjoy the beers. But this article was talking about people who would do it with what they called whale beers, which were rare beers, unusual beers, difficult to find ones.
Yeah, white whale was the rare beer.
Yeah, and then they would take it a step further. So the idea would be that a ghost whale beer was something that was like, you know, one bottle made by a monk in 1742 and buried under the sea that they've managed to get hold of, kind of thing. So it was a really ridiculous idea. And we actually wrote it off as a name, thinking it was just daft nonsense. And then the other name that we had as an alternative, which we won't mention, because it got binned for a reason.
Some shit.
It took a sideline, and we came back to Ghost Whale. It lent itself some good branding and a bit of fun, and it does exactly this. It makes people ask, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And then you've got an opportunity to explain yourself.
Yeah, there's intrigue, you know, and you can always you can have fun with it. You obviously retell the story, and you say how, you know, it's a beer that's not commercially available, and you know, it's rare, and you know, it's about that kind of trying to sort of make people think, oh, it's beers that, you know, you have to sort of search for and are sought after and are exciting and interesting because they're harder to find rather than things that you can just find at the supermarket or whatever. But
and the association there is that is what we are striving to be able to stock as well. And it really does, like, even in a very subconscious way now, after like 3.5 years, it does very much sit there at the back of our minds as a, how can we get this? How can we get that? I've seen that beer that somebody posted in Germany or in America or whatever, and it's a kind of, how can we get hold of that? How can we make it work so that we can try it because we love it and we're selfish and want to try it, but also how can we get that to share with the people that come to our shop and know about us and enjoy finding new things. So it served a purpose as kind of almost like a bit of an ethos for how we stock what we stock.
But having said all this, when we're not around, like on an evening shift or something, well, you know, in the old days, who knows what our staff are telling customers it means. Like, they might just be making up a different story every night, you know?
The whale, the famous Brixton whale, you know, it's a myth, right? It was the monster that was getting into the Thames through Brixton when the sea was, you know, who knows,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, funnily enough, like not long after we opened, someone went, "Oh, did you call yourself Ghost Whale because you're on Atlantic Road, as in Atlantic Ocean?" And we were like, "Oh, I didn't even ever think about that." Like, but there you go. So people all have like come up with their own sort of ideas and theories as well.
And you know, when I met you the first time, there were people then wearing into beer telling me then I must come to see you because I was in Brixton and I was working for a craft beer bar, Mother Kelly's at that time. So someone told me like, you have to go there because in Brixton there isn't much craft beer as probably you can find in North or East London. So definitely go to see the guys. And that was brilliant. So that was interesting for me in the relation that you had in the area. Like, you know, you are in a very specific part of the city with a specific history and, you know, some kind of, you know, different dimension, let's say. Brixton exists above everyone in my probably contact list. So how was perceived from the local community your shop and your presence?
That's interesting. Like when we started, or when we signed the lease for the shop, we were like really super conscious of not wanting to be perceived as part of a gentrification problem. We were very keen to sort of slide into the whole like the evolution of Brixton's sort of food and drink culture, rather than just being perceived as just something for essentially just like rich white people or something. And we've been conscious of that all the time. And when we did open, there was one day I came to work and someone had torn out a page of Time Out magazine, right? Which I almost perceive as sort of like a little bit white and middle class, quite frankly. Someone had torn out a page of Time Out magazine and written, "You're not welcome here," and stuck it through our door.
Ooh.
And we were like, oh shit. But rather than just painting even a slightly negative picture,
I think that was it though, really.
that was the only negative thing that happened. And then as we've been here longer, we've just noticed that it's been nice that we felt like people have just sort of grown to sort of accept us as part of the fabric of Brixton. And, you know, we get so many people coming here before and after having meals in Brixton, even if they don't live in Brixton, which is just awesome. Yeah. And we've also noticed our client base, well, customer base, sorry, sort of like get ever more diverse. And I'm not just talking in terms of sort of like where in the world they might come from or anything like that. I'm talking in terms of like age, sex, everything. And that has only got better and better. And by better and better, I mean more diverse the longer we've been here. And frankly, that's been one of the most heartwarming aspects of having this shop here for me. Just feeling like we've become part of Brixton just by keeping our head down, doing what we're doing and just selling beer promoting that cultural aspect in an unpretentious manner, and just making sure that everybody who walks through that door feels welcome and feels like there is a beer for them in our shop, no matter what, no matter who they are, you know. And that's like a real bedrock and foundation of like what we've become, I think, which is nice.
Yeah, you know, it's a point of view. Then I think people like you manage to really you know, going in the right direction in terms of, do you prefer to keep a shop closed or dodgy, or not adding anything to the actual, you know, community, or do you want to try to make your community more receptive to the changes that are happening all around? You went for the right way, and you also are really conscious because the beer that you stock and your message then is already from the outside, and you know, it's welcoming and declaration. Independent beer culture, guys, deal with it. That's it. So I reckon that if someone ever thought about, you know, what these guys want in here, is because they didn't know you, basically. That was the only time, probably. So it's not just about the beer community. Like, I have friends in Streatham and Tooting, and they telling me they come to your shop and getting some beers when they feel like they really want something, which is decent, I think.
Yeah, and we've really enjoyed, like, almost, I don't know, pulling people into our world from wine, from the world of wine, and from restaurants, and from other cultures, you know, other subcultures that are nothing to do with food and drink as well. That's definitely been a really enjoyable thing, to make them realize how great and diverse beer is.
I love the fact that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago a guy from Phil from Water into Beer, and it's not Phil his name, but Water into Beer, the owner, the guy, and he have a bottle shop, which is also a homebrew shop, and he's a former punk musician. And we were discussing about the co-elements that you can find within DIY punk and homebrewing, and you know what to expect when you go into that shop. It's a declaration, one more time, even stronger declaration. And he's like, "Oh, okay, fine, okay, brilliant." And as much as you have, he does also like very unusual, special from all around the world beer. Because hey, I never found some of the beers that you stock, guys, like Death Metal Brewery. What's that? How did you find it?
How do we find it?
Just by loving.
It's from loving loads of black metal and death metal bands, basically. Seeing somebody post a beer and go, "Oh, that looks like it's some black metal artwork. Let's find out about that." And suddenly we've got six different Nightmare brewing cans, which are all about like crucifixion and like ancient Chinese torture and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
really ridiculous.
We both grew up metalheads, so yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean about water into beer as well. They've got such a unique identity as well, in terms of they've done loads of acoustic punk shows over there, and you know, the homebrew aspect. It's almost like they've really carved their own niche as well. And I think that is what's vital to sort of, especially in somewhere like London, is to you know, if you want to stand out or be remembered or be known or whatever, then you know, you kind of have to like have your own. You have to have your own vibe.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be doing something particularly wacky, or you know, you don't have to like have any sort of gimmicks, but you do sort of. You have to have an identity, and sort of, you know, that identity has to come through sort of subtly in the background in your activities, I think.
Honestly, East London and North London are much harder to, you know, develop your own identity, because the area itself almost dictates what's the reason of your presence there. And that's why I'm so curious about South London. I can still see a shiny potential to express yourself in the way that you want, even through a business, even through beer, even through music. And it's unique in a city like this, especially in a city like this.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, I feel horrendously biased because I mean, I moved to London when I was 23, 22, 23, and I'm 36 now. And I've only ever lived in South London. And even then, I've specifically lived sort of within a sort of small circle, a small pocket of South London, you know, like Brixton, Crystal Palace, West Norwood. And Stuart lives in Herne Hill.
Okay.
And I almost feel like we kind of, obviously we've been to North London like absolutely loads and gone out and been to loads of bars and bottle shops. But I now feel probably like more embedded or more intrinsically linked to South London than anywhere else I've lived, to be perfectly honest. So if I just start singing South London's praises, I just feel like I'd be like completely biased.
Yeah, it's not a very balanced view, is it?
Yeah.
But, you know, we've both lived down here for years, so it's home. This is where we live, and this is
what
where
we know.
Spent years and years of our lives now, our adult lives. So, you know, it's what we know, and it's what we've stayed here because we love
like it,
basically.
Yeah. But there is that. You're right. There is, there is. Even when you head to London Bridge when you used to get the train, when you head to London Bridge and then just walk down to Bermondsey and go to like, I know Cloudwater's a Manchester brewery, but you go there and
if anyone's got an argument about which side of the river has the best of breweries, you can just tell them where the Colonel is.
Yeah,
and then that's the end of the argument.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you literally go to Bermondsey, and you can get, so much amazing beer, and then there's us here and in Putney, because obviously Putney's south of the river. Through to Hotburns in Black, between sort of like East Dulwich and Peckham, and there's just there's Deptford's got a load of good stuff. It just feels like there's a really good spread community. There's loads of good people doing good stuff. There's loads of really good unsung breweries as well, who are not like nationwide kind of hype train or anything. Like, we've always been really big fans of Bullfinch in Herne Hill. Those guys just keep their heads down. They're super hyper local, but they make some of like our favorite pale ales and saisons, and it's just that sort of. You can almost think like South London can sometimes almost like keep itself to itself a little bit, and people think it's hard to travel to, even though I think that is completely out of date and bullshit.
I agree.
But it does have a really good patchwork of identities between the different sort of areas and communities. So yeah, we completely love it. Completely love it.
I think if you're gonna spend a summer like this one that looks like it's gonna be quite epic, there isn't any better place than south of the river, because the rhythm as well, like the way, how chill you can leave your house to go somewhere else without rushing, screaming, buses and cars and taxis and I mean, it's like I'm in Finsbury Park, guys. I mean, what are we talking about? It's like
yeah. I mean, you can. We've often mooted the idea that you could you get off the tube in Brixton, right? You can go to London Beer Lab, check out their do a brewing course there, check out some of their beers. Then you could go to either Craft or Brewdog, maybe controversially, in Brixton. Come to us for a little while. Go to the Sympathetic Ear, which is sort of on the sort of Brixton, Herne Hill, Brockwell Park border, and then head into Herne Hill and go to Canopy Brewing, go to Bullfinch. I mean, I think end up lying down in Brockwell Park quite probably after all of that. I don't think that's a bad little mosey, a nice little walk, nice few beers, and that's not even thinking about the Bermondsey Bee Mile whatsoever. And that's all within the stretch of 1 mile here. I mean, it's like, that's pretty nice.
glorious. Yeah, I like that. Especially because tomorrow I'm going to speak with Daniele from Tottenham, Aura Brewing. So let's see what he's going to say to try to balance the...
Yeah. I think everybody, should sort of be proud and sort of keyed into their local areas and their local communities. And, I think yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's a really good positive thing.
100%.
For
And
sure.
I ask two questions, then I can't stop asking anymore to anyone. And I'm really sorry you have to do it as well. The first one is very simple. Which is your favorite spot in London? Beer spot. Call it pub, call it taproom, call it whatever you want. In the whole London.
Ooh, that's a good question.
The one that you
Shit.
will after all
I'm
of
gonna say somewhere north of London now.
Go on, then.
North of London, in North London.
Go on then, traitor.
It would probably be the Black Heart in Camden. Not necessarily because it's got the world's best beer range, but for me, there's definitely like a nostalgic kind of, that was part of my, like, I suppose, conversion, if you like, into this world. That sort of cemented the there's more to life than Stella kind of vibe. So the Black Heart in Camden, if anyone doesn't know, is a music venue and a pub, fundamentally. We played shows there in our band. We've been to loads of shows in the past. So we know it as a dirty DIY venue, but they've always got great music for us playing in the bar. It's a bit dark, it's a little bit dingy, but they've always got good beer on tap and in the fridges. And that, for me, is a very sort of nostalgically comfortable place to go. Know that I'm going to hear some decent music, chill out and have a couple of drinks with my friends, and just have some decent beer, even if it's not like the most amazing rare beer in the world or whatever. I just really like that venue, even though it's a bit, it's a little bit grossy and dirty. It's not the brightest lit place, but I still love it. It's got a nostalgic place in my heart.
I know why.
Let's go with that. That'll do. That's a good answer.
But
I mean,
first,
I think I've named a bunch of the places in South London that I think are great. So, and like I said, there's so many areas you can explore in South London, from Putney to, even through West Norwood here, Herne Hill, Brixton, obviously Bermondsey. I want to give a shout out to the beer shop in Nunhead.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I would especially say over the last year to 18 months, I've sort of come to feel of it, not like a second home, but like somewhere where I just feel 100% comfortable. I mean, Nunhead is a very, very, local community. It's very tight knit for a London area. And, the way they run that place is literally, you feel like you walk in and you always know the barman, or they're always willing to have a chat, and they always have so many great beers, and it's always comfortable, and there's great food, like either in there or right next door, depending on whether they have a trader outside.
I mean, we went there for our Christmas party this year.
Yeah, so I mean, if that,
they're great.
So yeah, Beer Shop London in Nunhead. I think those guys I think they do great stuff.
I'm glad, because I was ready to get another The Harp, which is nothing wrong with it. But hey, 10 people on 20 told me I read The Harp in Covent Garden, which is interesting to hear, and I will definitely go there. But there are so many other places around, in a way. So
there's a lot of downsides to Covent Garden as well, though. Like, there's definitely no sense of locality there for me personally.
Good point. Your locality is
Culture,
key.
yeah, but like feeling like a part of a community, maybe not so much.
No. And the other tough one is, what is the short, mid-term future for London beer? And when I say beer, I mean pubs, breweries, and whatever you want to attach to it. Bottle shops as well, if you prefer.
I think
Surviving.
Yeah, survival. I think pubs is obviously the very difficult one now. There will inevitably be certain pubs that don't get through this and end up closing for whatever reason. I think that's unavoidable, and that might be true of some breweries, some shops. But I very much get the feeling that because everyone's kind of in the same boat and in it together, and their customers are understanding of that situation, I think the people that have adapted their business model to, to match the situation will get through it. It's not necessarily going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but people will get through it. And it will at some point return to what was normality. It might not be as soon as everyone hopes, but like we said right at the start of this, we cannot wait to be able to have people come and sit out here. Sorry for making you all jealous, but sit out here in the garden and have a beer and enjoy it in the sun and just chill out with your friends and,
Yeah. I think about it in two ways, like really personally. And firstly, it's like, I think passion and hard work will always endure, whether that might have to adapt and change how you do business or how you sell beer. But I do think that if you're passionate about something and you're willing to put in the hard work, where there is a will, there is always a way. And then my second thought about it all is I feel like we're almost like in some sort of weird way having a baby in the it's like you have to, it's going to learn to walk again. But it takes a long time, and it's going to learn to run, but it's just going to take time, and we've just got to be patient and figure out and help that to happen. And that's just, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's just like the closest analogy that my brain can sort of just come up with.
It's perfect. Someone asked me, how do you see the future of beer in December? And I was just like, let's speak about August, September, because December is too
steps.
Baby steps. I agree with you. Definitely. I'm gonna try to walk on my way to Brixton just to say hi one of these days. Hopefully, this is my.
Please do.
I really would love. I mean, Fitzpatrick Brixton is probably gonna be like around 2.5 hours on one way.
Yeah.
But hey,
get the bike out.
That's a good point. But the wife doesn't feel super comfortable cycling. But I say to her, this is the lowest kind of traffic however you can find in London ever. Probably from 1870, this is the lowest.
You need to move quick. It's picking up.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Hopefully Sunday. And if it's not gonna be in these days, definitely when the world will fix itself, I'm gonna try to find a use in that small garden. Probably like get a beer, try and speak with you, or even listen what is the best metal record for the last decade, because no one told me that yet, and I don't want to do it now. I don't want the next video.
Yeah, okay.
I know.
I think it's Maya by a band called Conjurer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, check out Conjurer.
Can you send it to me through?
Yeah, of course. I'll send you a link. Yeah.
I'm listening.
It'll blow your mind.
Too much funk and jazz. My neighborhood are so chilled. I need to,
Yeah, you need to rev it up.
And I really want to say thank you to join me today here. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
No, it's been really nice.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, guys. And
cool.
Stay safe. Work hard and enjoy the sun when you can, guys.
Yeah, likewise. Look after yourself. Take care. Stay safe.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Then watch. Bye-bye.